Well, there are a number of things that are unique about Massachusetts, and I'm living it with my daughter right now. One of the things that I think that might contribute to complacency among some of the bureaucrats is that for a long time, Massachusetts was what they called a non-categorical state, in that the IEPs were not categorized. They didn't lump you, they deliberately didn't put people into categories like autism. And then there was a bill passed, maybe over 10 years ago, that forced the state special education services to enter in categorical data. And that's when the autism numbers were first visible in Massachusetts. And in fact, they got recategorized. So while I don't think the diagnosis was ever not given, there was this perception of diagnostic substitution. And so as the autism numbers have risen, one of the times they rose the sharpest was when they were first entered, because they weren't entered. And so some of these folks can probably talk themselves into believing that there is diagnostic substitution when that's not in fact true. In fact, if you look at the numbers since that shift, the mental retardation rates have drifted down a little, but autism rates have exploded. And that's what at least that NPR data shows. And so that's a background fact for Massachusetts that matters. The one thing that I've learned, kind of close up and personal, is you talk to special education teachers here, and they all know, they take it as a given that the autism rates are going up. They don't know why. They don't consider it their responsibility to ask why, but they just take that as a given in their environment. The other thing that I guess is most dramatic that I've learned, I guess the third thing, is that we're now seeing the aging out. And Massachusetts ages out a little later, or on they're generous in terms of when they age people out of the education system. So my daughter will age out on her 22nd birthday. And that's when her educational services will stop and she'll enter the adult services population. And the thing that I've learned is that really just 2 years ago, my daughter was born in 1995, and she's about a year and a half away from aging out. The children born as of 2014, so 2 years ago, the adult services group reorganized themselves and they set up an autism adult services group, which runs differently from the mental retardation or the intellectual disability group. And because they recognize that those populations are different in terms of what they need from the adult services system. And so clearly Massachusetts, in its services infrastructure, it has recognized that they are now seeing a new population. My perception of it right now is that they're doing a pretty good job. And they're pretty well organized to deal with my daughter's concerns. I'm hopeful that it will go well. And we've been working with some very conscientious people that are doing a good job. But obviously, that if the epidemic, the tsunami of adults continues unchecked for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, imagine the population of adults that's going to be facing this emergent services program. It's going to be under huge stress. For whatever reason, I think the school system has absorbed the challenge, but it's absorbed it at the expense of other things, other services. There's probably been rationing of services to some degree, but I think the adult services is likely to be where we hit a tipping point. And at some point, there's a straw that will break the camel's back. When that happens, I wish I could predict.